Matthew Lillard filled very big shoes becoming the new voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo, but he's not happy with every direction the franchise has taken, and now he's come out trashing Mindy Kaling. And Matthew Lillard, who started playing Shaggy on Scooby-Doo for the 2002 live-action movie, wasn't actually the first pick to play Shaggy, where the studio initially wanted Jim Carrey for the part. The problem was Warner thought it was too big of a risk hiring Jim Carrey for the project because due to Bruce Almighty and the Grinch, he was now requesting $20 million per movie and it just wasn't in their budget. So because they couldn't afford Jim Carrey, they actually brought in Mike Myers, who was originally planned to co-write the movie Scooby-Doo and also play the character of Shaggy. But the issue with that was Mike Myers had to drop out from Scooby-Doo because he got too busy playing Austin Powers and also Shrek, so they brought in James Gunn to be the new writer for Scooby-Doo and then Matthew Lillard to play Shaggy. When it came to casting Fred and Daphne, the director knew he wanted to make them a couple on screen, so thought it would be a good idea to have a real-life couple play them in the movie. So because that, Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar became the first picks to play Fred and Daphne because they were a real-life couple and already had a hit movie together with I Know What You Did Last Summer, which made $125 million on a budget of $17 million. And Freddie Prinze Jr. was actually a big factor for why Matthew Lillard got cast in Shaggy, because before they did the movie She's All That together, which made $103 million on a budget of $10 million, they had a good chemistry working together. Making the original live-action Scooby-Doo movie was a challenge because when they initially shot it, it was shot as an R-rated movie. With the reason that Warner thought Scooby-Doo would be more successful as being a parody that was R-rated, like the PG-13 1995 Brady Bunch movie, which was a parody and a hit, making $52 million on a budget of $12 million. Then Warner Brothers got cold feet because they realized the sequel to that movie, A Very Brady Sequel, was a failure, making only $22 million on a budget of $15 million. So in post-production, they made a lot of changes, with one big example being there was a lot of cleavage in the original cuts of the movie, but they used CGI to get rid of the cleavage in the final cut. And they also filmed a make-out scene between Sarah Michelle Gellar and Linda Cardellini playing Daphne and Velma, but to this day it's never been released because they cut it from the original movie. And Linda Cardellini's Velma was supposed to be a lesbian in James Gunn's original script, but Warner Brothers didn't like that, so midway through production, they had him change it. And then there were just a lot of curse words, gore, and Mary Jane jokes that got cut out of the original movie. While it wasn't what the team wanted, Scooby-Doo was still a huge success, making $256 million on a budget of $84 million, showing the more PG approach did work. There were still some members of the cast who were really pissed off about the changes, including Freddie Prinze Jr., who actually said he wasn't going to return for the sequel until the studio forced him due to contract. That sequel ended up being a financial failure, with Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed not making the money it needed, only making $181 million on a budget of $80 million, which after marketing ticket splits means it actually lost money. And James Gunn did reveal he actually wrote a screenplay for a third Scooby-Doo movie, which would take place in Scotland and involve the twist being that the town was filled with monsters, but the humans were actually abusing the monsters, but that ended up never getting made. That didn't stop the live-action movie's mark on the franchise, because in 2009, Casey Kasem, the longtime voice actor of Shaggy, retired and Matthew Lillard took his place. And now Matthew Lillard has done the voice for over 15 different Scooby-Doo animated movies, as well as 3 TV shows, one of which being Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which went for 52 episodes, and in my personal opinion, along with many others, was the best version of the franchise. But the problem was that show was so successful creating a darker approach to Scooby-Doo, where they literally had a scene where a teenage girl died being gunned down, that they got to the point with Warner Brothers where they thought they can go even darker with Scooby-Doo. So because then in 2021, Warner decided to finally do an R-rated Scooby-Doo project, hiring Mindy Kaling to lead the series and call it Velma. It was a very big jump from where the Scooby-Doo franchise started, because it actually began in 1969 after the show Space Ghost was cancelled because parents groups complained it was too violent. Because that in 1969, Hanna-Barbera was looking for something safer, so they actually wanted to rip off the TV show The Archies, which did involve a dog and involved a bunch of kids traveling around in a van playing music. They even came up with the name Scooby-Doo because of the Frank Sinatra song Strangers in the Night, where he keeps on saying doobie doobie doo at the end, so they came up with the name Scooby-Doo because of that. But then they got rid of the idea of them being a band because they realized how popular mystery radio shows were, so they made them a mystery gang, and also they had a different name versions where they originally called the Mystery Five, but then it was shrunk down to just being Scooby-Doo. So because that for decades, parents groups loved Scooby-Doo because it was low violence, and also kids just loved Scooby-Doo and loved the element of mystery, so it was a success, making billions of dollars for Hanna-Barbera and later Warner Brothers. But that was definitely thrown out the door with Mindy Kaling's Velma, where they ended up creating one of the most hated shows in all of history. Mindy Kaling initially dismissed the hate the Velma trailer got, saying it was just because of racism because she decided to make Velma Indian, and it got 200,000 dislikes for the trailer on YouTube. But there was actually more to that, because Velma's actually had a lot of different races over the years, like Hayley Kiyoko, who played Velma in a 2006 made-for-TV Scooby-Doo movie, and she's actually of Japanese descent. And then in 2019, Warner made a big deal that they cast Gina Rodriguez to voice Velma, making Velma Latina for the first time. Casting Mindy Kaling as Velma actually angered a lot of people because it created this idea the nerdy person gets tossed around by the minorities, but the pretty people stay the same race, and that's white. Then the show also got a lot of hate for the depiction of the character Daphne, where they decided to make Daphne Asian for the first time, but many felt it was trying to make the stereotype of the cool Asian, and they also had a very graphic scene involving teenage girls being naked in a shower during high school. And then they also decided to reintroduce the character of Shaggy, calling him Norval this time and making him black, but the problem was his character had nothing to do with the actual character of Shaggy. Many white people were upset how the only character they kept white was Fred, who they make a misogynist and also say he has delayed puberty, and because that is basically a man-child. And the show wasn't even able to put Scooby-Doo in it because Warner Brothers wouldn't allow Mindy Kaling the rights to Scooby-Doo, saying they didn't want an R-rated show to disturb merchandise. But ended up getting awful reviews from pretty much everybody, with nobody in the right or left defending it, and it got canceled after the second season, where it only got a second season because they contracted it that way initially with Warner. Now Matthew Lillard, who's still voicing Shaggy in other projects, has come out giving his 2 cents on Mindy Kaling and the project, saying he doesn't think the issue was diversity, but the problem was Mindy Kaling completely destroyed the characters and does ultimately put some blame on her. And with that, I'm Charles Brawl. Please subscribe to learn something.